Welcome back to Inspiring Big Leaders. And we're going to cross over to Singapore right now. And I'd like Tuan Ismail, my co-host, to have the honors of introducing our guest speaker for today.
Thank you, Mona. I asked myself, how do you introduce someone like Dr. Rajiv? I can look at him as a teacher, but at the same time, he is a consultant who has worked with many most admired companies, Fortune 500 companies in the world. So I will try this, Dr. Rajiv. One of my favorite movies is The Godfather. To me, that's a typical boss's movie. But there's only one movie that I can actually ascribe to steward leader, and that's Gandhi. So if I look at that range of leadership movies that we see before us, it clearly shows segmentation of leadership and how each leader are different from the rest and how effective they are. So to you, we refer, Rajiv, what is leadership and how do you differentiate effective leadership post-COVID in a challenging environment? So over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. You know, for the last 20 years, I have been asking people, what is leadership? And no matter where in the world I ask the question, people respond as follows. Leadership is the act of influencing, directing, coaching, inspiring, thising or thatting people towards achievement of some common goals. In other words, people think of leadership as something that you do to other people. And that is a huge misconception. You mentioned Gandhi. You look at people like Gandhi, you look at people like Nelson Mandela, you look at people like Martin Luther King. They never did anything to other people. Whatever they did to themselves. And that example became inspired followers. So leaders are not about telling other people what to do. Leadership is not a title. Leadership is not a position. Leadership is about having the burning desire to create a better future.
I like that first part of, I would call it, if I use this word, am I allowed to use this word, Rajiv? Misconception. That's the biggest misconception about leadership, actually. And I had this experience recently working with an agency that wants to go through what they call change in management. And after a series of conversation over 3 weeks, they begin to turn around and begin to ask what has transformed. So I think you have just clarified that one of the biggest misconceptions of leadership is it's not about doing something to others, it's about doing something to yourself. So can you elaborate for us a bit more, Rajiv, your leadership maturity continuum? That's something that I love. It really encapsulates everything else that you need to know about leadership from start, basically as a boss, as they call it. Yeah, you've been in Malaysia, Rajiv, you know the common phrase out there, we have too many bosses. Yes, boss, to the very extreme of when we start looking for who is a steward leader.
All of us, when we are young, when we are infants and we are young children, we are dependent on other people. We are dependent on our parents, on our teachers, and on society, even for basic needs. And it's all about who can help me, who can give me what. And that is the dependent stage where it's all about what can I get from the world. And the sad part is that most people, no matter how old they become, they remain in that dependent stage that my life is about getting things from the world and from other people. Some people finally get into what we call the interdependent stage, where they realize that actually life is not about just getting from the world, but also about giving to the world. And that is where they begin their leadership journey. That they ask themselves the question, who am I? Why am I in this world? And how is the world going to be slightly better because of my life? Now they are giving themselves a purpose that I'm not here to just live and die one day. I'm here to make a better future, and I'm going to give myself a purpose. And then finally, the final stage of maturity is when you move from interdependence to independence. So now you already have interdependence, whereby your life is all about creating a better future for other people. But independence means, in addition to that, you derive your own happiness, your own satisfaction, your own sense of well-being internally, not externally. You don't wait for somebody to praise you. You don't wait for somebody to reward you. You are intrinsically motivated because the journey that you're on self. Now nobody can upset you. Now nobody can do anything bad to you, because how you feel now depends entirely on you. So those are the three levels: dependence, interdependence, and independence. Very few people get to that independent stage.
I almost start my next sentence by saying, can you make it simpler for me? In the context of civil service, as we begin to talk about an honor to serve, as Dato has mentioned earlier, an honor to serve, and how do we deliver service to the rakyat? We are probably at level 2 of the conversation, and how do we define whether that leader is effective? Is it because of the reach to the rakyat, or is there something else? But I also have one burning question inside me, Rajiv, as you describe it. I know I've come across leaders that always look at this question around, I have tried everything. I've been rated the best in my skill. I've been going through coaching, but there is a missing link. So if there's such a thing as a missing link, despite all the clarity of purpose, all the 6 shared values I've gone through, is there a missing link? So 2 things. How do I find that effective leader, or what are the symptoms of effective leaders? And is there such as a missing link?
Yeah, so, we put too much focus on competency models and skills if we want to develop leaders. But if I may just use an example of a civil servant, Nelson Mandela. He was in prison for 27 years under very harsh conditions, and yet did not give up on his dream of building a rainbow nation. If we can answer the question how somebody can go through prison for 27 back-breaking years, we will understand what the missing thing is. The question is, how did he not give up? And if you can put up that second slide that you were showing earlier, I will try to explain what I mean. The first step is not giving up is the secret source of leadership. It is called leadership energy. And it is made up of 2 things. One is very, very honest clarity about what my values are. And these values I will never compromise no matter what happens. So when Nelson Mandela comes out of prison and finally becomes president, what do the people of South Africa, the majority people of South Africa, want? They want revenge. They want an eye for an eye. But what does Nelson Mandela offer instead? He offers forgiveness. He offers reconciliation. And that is because his values of forgiveness and reconciliation and nonviolence are sacrosanct to him. He will never compromise no matter what happens. Even his wife and daughter, who he waited for 27 years to reunite with, were upset with him. What are you doing? You are selling your soul to the devil? We want you to do what the people elected you for. And he said no. His wife and daughter left him. They deserted him. He consoled himself by saying, my family is not people. My family is 44 million people. That is the kind of deep and honest clarity of values I'm talking about. If you want to have the long-lasting energy, do not give up. Now that you have this values clarity, you look at all those things that give you energy based on those values and find one thing that you want to make your purpose. And together, those 2 sources become the main ingredients of your leadership energy, which is why Gandhi, Mandela, and a whole lot of other civil servants that I've talked to and observed never give up. Because that values-based purpose is the secret sauce, not anything else. Yes, competencies are important. Yes, coaching is important. Mentoring is important. All those things can help you clarify. But above all, deep inside, that leadership energy made up of your values and purpose is the core.
Wow, that's amazing, right? Thank you, Rajiv. And you spoke about 27 years he was in prison. Imagine the amount of time that he had to sustain that energy and the amount of energy that he had to begin with for him to actually last that long. And you spoke about values-based purpose. I read your article on Forbes on this, and I think that's for another webinar. We don't have time for that today, but we're just going to go on a short break, and we're going to dive deeper into leadership energy after the break.